Hey, Changemaker! Welcome to Learning for Good, the only podcast that teaches nonprofit leaders how to leverage training to drive performance, improve capacity, and fuel their mission impact. Do you ever feel like your nonprofit is growing, but your people just aren't keeping up? Or like you're fixing the same problems over and over? Do you wonder how to build confident, capable staff who know how to lead, not just execute? If we haven't met yet, I'm Heather, and I know how hard it can feel to get people to do what's expected of them. Trust me, I have 3 kids. I've tried telling people what to do and how. I've tried the traditional training approaches, and I realized that just doesn't work. And that's when I started researching what does work. Now I help mission-driven leaders use learning to drive performance, build capacity, and make change that lasts. And I'm sharing it all on this podcast. So block your calendar, turn off your Teams or Slack chat, and let's dive in. It's Learning for Good. Some of you may know that I have 3 children, and that 3rd child surprises me constantly. Like the time I caught her brushing her teeth with shaving cream. Yeah, I never told her not to do that because it never occurred to me that she would. So instead of being proactive, I was reactive. And now she knows not to use shaving cream to brush your teeth. It's funny, I can pretty much relate any parenting lesson to leadership and to learning. But it's like this with our staff, too. They don't always know what is expected of them. What should they do? What should they not do? And I've personally found a competency model to be a great place to start if you are creating a leadership development or skills strategy. You can uncover those expectations, document them, and then develop them. It's simple, but not easy. So today, I want to take a look at past podcast episodes that were focused on developing your people leaders. And I want to pull out some of the tips and tricks that I have shared and that past guests have shared. I'm pretty excited for this one. Let's dive in. It's Learning for Good. How do you know which skills to develop? And then how do you know how to develop those skills? As a consultant, I'm often approached because the nonprofit needs to develop their leaders in some way. And doing a solid needs analysis is an important first step. So let's start with how to know which skills to develop. So again, I recommend starting with a needs analysis. And if you aren't sure how to do this, I have a few podcast episodes on it, which I can link to in the show notes. But I also want to invite you to my upcoming workshop, How to Diagnose Learning Needs That Drive Action. It's happening on August 6th from 11 to 12:30 Central Time on Zoom. And we're going to explore a framework for identifying behavior-based learning needs. We're going to look at some real-life examples, and you'll get a starter template to guide your next needs analysis. This workshop is $49, or it's free for all Nonprofit Learning and Development Collective Catalysts. This is such a great opportunity to kind of do that deep dive around identifying needs. But this needs analysis, it has to lead to something. And for leadership skills, I recommend documenting what you find in a competency model. I mentioned a competency model in the intro. Why is that? Competencies give managers a target. When leadership feels vague, people don't know what to improve. Competency models bring clarity to expectations like communication, accountability, coaching, adaptability. And I always need to do that needs analysis to identify the right competencies for a specific organization. And when I do this, I typically look at the external landscape. I review existing internal documents like your mission, vision, and values, as well as job descriptions and things like that. And I also talk with people. A couple questions that I've used to kickstart those conversations. One is, what knowledge, skills, and behaviors are needed for staff to fulfill your nonprofit strategies? So specifically to do your work, to achieve your mission, what is it that you have to be able to do? And then I also ask, what does it look like to act or contribute to your nonprofit in a way that aligns with its mission, vision, strategies, and values? This is kind of that deeper level of how you engage with each other, how you engage with your community or the people that you serve. And once you've done all the research and identified themes across the different conversations and documents, you can start to take those findings and you can start to document them in a competency model. Competency models are important because they provide clarity and they build consistency. And this is especially important in multi-site or remote nonprofits because competencies ensure new managers are aligned on what good leadership means, no matter who their supervisor is or what team they're on or where they work. And then you could also use these competencies to shape their development. Competencies do no good sitting on a shelf, so we want to use them to guide onboarding and feedback, coaching, promotions, and leadership development. So again, the first question is, which skills do we develop? Start with a needs analysis. And for leadership skills, document those skills in a competency model. But then, how? How do we develop our leaders? How do we develop our people managers? One obvious way you can develop your people managers is through training. Purchasing and providing off-the-shelf courses is a common approach to training and development. Off-the-shelf training providers like LinkedIn Learning or Udemy have a fully stocked library of courses on pretty much every topic imaginable, and many times that's a cost-effective way to go. So it makes sense that organizations are drawn to them. But one of the limitations of off-the-shelf training is that they lack context. The scenarios and skills are going to be more general because they need to appeal to a larger audience. So they're not always going to match up with your needs analysis or your competency model. And that context is often needed to make that training relevant and meaningful. But if this is you, if you find yourself in a situation where you know you're going to be using things like LinkedIn Learning or Udemy, I highly encourage you to contextualize that learning in other ways. So in the episode, How to Develop Your People Managers with Off-the-Shelf Courses, Alberto Garcia shared how he combined off-the-shelf courses with emails, virtual workshop-style conversations, and peer-to-peer connections in his work with Interfaith Ministries for Greater Houston. So that is one option. Another option is to create custom training. And this is what my team and I do at Skillmasters Market. We partner with you to identify needs and then create solutions that will meet those needs. It might be a formal training, workshop, job aid, some combination of solutions, but we will design something specifically for you. Another training option is to partner with academic institutions. These institutions generally have degree programs, but also certifications and workshops that can build specific skills in your leaders. And again, the challenge there is just that it isn't going to be custom to your organization and your leaders' needs. So training is one option for how to develop your people managers or your leaders. Now, another option is coaching. And in the episode 5 Keys to Great Nonprofit Leadership, I talk about the need to go beyond training and to support your leaders with a coach. Leaders need to be aware of their strengths and their growth opportunities. And coaching can be a great way to help your leaders uncover their needs. It's a safe and trusting relationship between the coach and the coachee. It's private, it's one-on-one many times. It's development focused and not discipline focused. And this coaching relationship can help open your leaders up and help them be a little bit more vulnerable. It can help them name their strengths and their areas for growth. Can help them as they navigate new or unfamiliar situations with their teams. And it can help them translate things that they learned in training onto the job. In the episode, The Surprising Power of Cross-Sector Coaching, Bob Tiede of Crew shared how he built a cross-sector coaching program for new people managers. Bob leaned into his network of business leaders and gave them the opportunity to coach Crew's emerging leaders. Crew's a faith-based nonprofit. This brought fresh thinking, deeper reflection, and performance breakthroughs for staff. The outside coaches had no internal agenda, no real way to discipline if things weren't going well. It was truly development focused, and Bob is seeing real results. Coaching is hands down one of the best ways you can support your leaders. So we have training, we have coaching. I also want to talk about enablement. In the episode, People Manager Development, How to Transfer Skills Beyond the Classroom, Kamaria Scott shares the concept of enablement. We can't just develop our people. We also have to enable them to do their jobs. So this means we're actively removing roadblocks, creating clarity, and giving managers the tools and authority to act. It's kind of the environmental piece. Once we know they can act on these new skills, we need to hold them accountable. Accountability is the next thing I want to talk about, and we don't always like to talk about accountability, but it's important. Accountability isn't about being controlling or punitive. It's about building a culture where people know what's expected of them and they feel ownership of their work, and they can get timely, honest feedback about their work, and they can understand the impact of their actions or their inaction. That doesn't happen just because you send them through training. It happens because you lead with clarity, consistency, and care. And one way we can kind of create this accountability is through performance reviews or manager one-on-ones. These intentional conversations are what allow our leaders to set goals and ensure their work aligns with those goals and that they're making progress toward those goals. If your organization isn't doing much with performance reviews, consider adding goal setting into your leadership programs and find a way to add that accountability and that follow-up. And then for one-on-ones, if this is a new concept to your organization, consider starting with a templated agenda that people managers can use. Accountability is necessary, and when done right, it shouldn't be feared. It's a good thing. And I don't think we can close this episode without also talking about well-being and preventing burnout. We need to create psychological safety because psychological safety supports performance. Encouraging open communication, feedback, and coaching, that helps team members feel secure enough to take risks and grow. We also need to create a culture of belonging if we want people who are well. Belonging isn't just a DEI initiative, it's part of how you lead. In the episode, How to Create Belonging and Connection at Work, Abigail Fink shares how managers can foster well-being by being present, inclusive, and attentive to how team members experience the workplace. We also need clear expectations. Having clear expectation helps reduce burnout. So we've already talked about that a little bit with the competency model, but we need to be clear what's expected. And we need a culture where feedback is safe and consistent because feedback helps people grow. And it helps people feel seen, supported, and set up for success when it's done right. And then finally, we need to plan for staff transitions. Naomi Hathaway calls succession planning love in action in her episode, Not Just an HR Problem, the Role of L&D in Succession Planning. Staff transitions can create panic and overwhelm. And staff transitions happen all the time. A succession plan can reduce stress, prevent burnout, preserve morale, and protect team dynamics. So, how do we develop our people managers? Training, coaching, enablement, accountability, and well-being. I mean, wow, just reviewing these past episodes and pulling out these themes for your people manager development was so motivating for me. We have so many opportunities to develop our people and to help them be the best they can be at work. L&D is an enabler, and I often hear that as we are just an enabler. But let's think about this. We help people be their best. We help prevent burnout. We help teams work together more effectively and efficiently. We help nonprofits achieve their mission and their goals. We are essential to the organization. If you need help getting your leadership development initiatives off the ground, let's connect. I love doing this work and would be honored to help your organization operate at its best. I'll see you next time on Learning for Good.
Hey friend, was this episode helpful for you? Did you like what you heard? Do you want more content like this? Here are 3 things you can do. Hit subscribe. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast app of choice. Share this episode with a colleague. This means so much to me personally. I read every review, but it also helps me learn what content you like most so I can create more of what you want. All right, turn that Teams or Slack chat back on when you're ready, and I'll see you next time on Learning for Good.